Welcome to NFL Week 11. Quick recap from last week. Tough week, went 2-3 on the picks. Chicago last week took them against the Lions. It was probably my favorite pick of the week. Those morons blew a 24-10 lead in the fourth quarter. You're up 14 in the fourth against the Lions. I mean, you just cannot lose that game. Justin Fields threw a pick six, and then the Lions ended up tying it up 24, and then Fields runs for a 67-yard touchdown that missed the extra point, and then anyways, the Lions ended up going down and scoring, making their extra point and winning by 131-30. Justin Fields, man, this guy. He's a great runner, but God, this guy cannot pass worth a shit. And the Bears lost that one. The Rams, I had the Rams actually. I think money line I took them against Arizona. They lost. That was just I was on the wrong side of that game. The Rams were never in it. Arizona was clearly the right side, and that was the Rams season right there. So I was betting on them to, get a win. They had a better defense, better coach. Kind of a must-win situation. Cooper Kupp got injured, and then just both backup quarterbacks were in, which I thought favored the Rams. But Arizona was just the right side in that game. And then obviously I took the Thursday night football game, Atlanta. Marcus Mariota showed us why he just was a first-round bust. Played like absolute shit, but hard to handicap that game. Carolina played their best game of the year last week, and I mean, what are you going to do there? I did take Tampa Bay in Germany. They got the win against Seattle, and I took Pittsburgh on the money line. There was a 1.5-point dog to New Orleans, and Pittsburgh won that game outright 20-10. So 2-3 on the week. The Tampa and Pittsburgh games I loved. Chicago was just a heartbreaking one. That one they should have won. Otherwise, would have had a winning week at 3-2. But we're 30-14 on the season, so still having a really great year. And now we look towards week 11. This week, I love it. Week 9 was by far the toughest week of the year. Last week, a little bit unlucky. But this week, there's a lot of meat to chew off the bone here. There's a lot of great games. I got 4 plays for you. I'll talk about a couple other games here, and we'll try to go through these games as quickly as possible. The Thursday night game, I'm not betting this game. I know some people were wondering who I was taking. I try to stay away from these primetime games in general, unless I really, like a side. Tennessee and Green Bay. Listen, if you got Green Bay early in the week when they were under 3 points, I think they were 1.5, 2.5. If you got them in that range, I think Green Bay's a look. It's hard to find that now. They're at 3s pretty much across the board, 3.5s. It's hard to take them because who knows with Green Bay. Was last week their coming out party, or are they just really the same Green Bay team? Tough to. I think Green Bay's going to win the game tonight. But 3 in the hook is tough, especially with a low total. It's probably going to be a lower scoring game. And Tennessee, they played teams tough. They slow the game down to a crawl. They like running the football. So that 3 in the hook does worry me a little bit if you like the Packers. Tennessee just finds ways every single year. They lose everything in the box score, but they come out and win, get in the playoffs. They just kind of grind out games. So it's a low total. That's why it's tough to take Green Bay at 3 in the hook. But I think Green Bay first half at -1.5, I think is a good play. I'm not betting the game, but that's what I would do, take Green Bay on the first half. The Buffalo game was one I looked at quickly. I thought that game opened like 9 or something like that against Cleveland. But that game is kind of all out of whack now. I don't think they're playing in Buffalo. It looks like they're playing down in Detroit Sunday because of all the snow that's about to smack Buffalo. Which probably works into Buffalo's favor because they are going to playing in a dome now, pass the ball. Cleveland, if they played in the snow, are probably going to run the football, and it favors their style of play a bit more. But who knows in that game now? Buffalo to me, losing the last couple of weeks, they're going to probably come out firing and throwing the football against a Cleveland defense that really hasn't been playing well. They haven't looked good this season. I thought, they were going to turn it around after beating Cincinnati on Monday Night Football a couple weeks ago, and then they just absolutely laid an egg last week in Miami, which is too bad. Kind of an interesting handicap situation for Buffalo now playing in Detroit because they also are going to be playing Detroit next week on Thanksgiving. And who knows, that line could be just massive. it maybe comes down a little bit because Buffalo's been struggling of late in Detroit. They won last week and whatever, but that game could be like 14, 15 points next week that Buffalo's laying on the road. And who knows? It's kind of an interesting angle now that if they, stay in Detroit for the week, there's no reason why I would want to go back to Buffalo anyway. Just stay in Motown for the week, chill, and play Thanksgiving next week there. So I got 4 plays for you guys this weekend. I'm going to start off with the 1 o'clock game, Philadelphia at Indianapolis. I have Philadelphia laying 7.5. To me, this is the easiest one on the board for me, so hopefully it comes through. I love Indianapolis here. This spread I think was even higher, 9.5. Philly lost. Indy won last week. It's been bet down. A lot of 7s on the boards. You'll see some 6.5s, but this line's going only down. So if you can get a 7, get it. If you got a 7.5 like I did, even better. Under 7 it gets trickier. At 6.5, you always feel better at that 7.5 mark. But this is a game where you can even sprinkle some money on the money line. I did this earlier in the year when the Colts were at home to Kansas City and the Colts won. I think they're worth a shot on the money line this week against Philly, but I'm definitely taking the 7.5. Philly, they don't impress me all that much. Although they start off the season 8-0, their strength of schedule, aside from the Minnesota game, really hasn't been all that challenging. They haven't played really good defenses. Laid an egg Monday night against Washington. Now they're on a short week traveling to Indy that's coming off a win. It's a tough one to be laying more than a touchdown. There's no way I'm doing that with Philly. Jalen Hurts in his career is 5-10 ATS. When he's a favorite on the road, he's 5-10 ATS. The Eagles, to me, shouldn't be laying this many points on the road. Jeff Saturday, surprising last week, got the win in Vegas. I like Indy here, plus 7.5. They're 4-5-1. Tennessee's playing tonight, and although Tennessee's beaten Indy both times this season, they lose tonight and the Colts can win. I mean, they're 5-5-1, and the Colts or the Titans are 6-4. They're right there. So Colts have a lot to play for. I'm sure they'll have a lot of energy, a lot of hype coming back home in Jeff Saturday's home debut. I'm just not laying this many points on the road with the Eagles. Take Indy plus 7.5. We're skipping the rest of the 1 o'clock games, going right to 4 o'clock. I got 3 4 o'clock or 4:30 games for you guys. One of them, Vegas at Denver. I have Denver at minus 1.5. Got a low number. You can find them at Square Shops. Even anything that's under 3, even 2.5. I'm taking the Broncos. I'm sworn off Las Vegas. This team's a complete and utter mess. I thought Josh McDaniels was going to get fired losing the game at Jacksonville. Then I thought he was going to get fired after losing the game against Indy. Turns out management likes this guy, and they're sticking with him. I don't know why this guy, to me, is not a head coach. The 2 head coaches in this game might be the 2 worst head coaches, and they're going head-to-head this week. These guys combined Wonderlic is probably about 17. 2 morons at head coaches in Denver and Vegas. But under a field goal, listen, although I think both teams suck, Vegas, there's something just off with this team. Not right in the locker room. I can't bet Las Vegas on the road. They're 0-5 on the road. They're just not a good football team. And Denver, although they're not good, they do have one of the best defenses in the league. I think that's going to give Derek Carr all kinds of trouble in Mile High. And as long as the Broncos can establish a running game here, I think they're going to win this game. I think the Broncos can win by at least 3 points. I'm taking the Broncos minus 1.5. Next game, going right back to, I don't think it's called Heinz Field anymore, but I'm going right back to the Pittsburgh game. I'm going right back to the well with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Took them last week at home, money line against the New Orleans Saints. They have Cincinnati coming to town, and I have Cincinnati at a 5.5 point favorite. I'm thinking Pittsburgh at plus 5.5. Again, Cincy, they're coming off a bye. If they're going to get on a roll here to finish off the season, this is kind of where it's going to start. They lost week 1 at home, I believe in overtime to Pittsburgh, 23-20. So they got this game circled on their schedule. But we don't need Pittsburgh to win this game. We just need them to stick close. At plus 5.5, a home divisional dog with a really good defense. TJ Watt makes his team like 5 times better. He was all over the place last week coming back against New Orleans. And as long as, similar to the Broncos game, I'm picking 2 bad offenses this week in Denver and Pittsburgh. But as long as, like Denver, if Pittsburgh can establish a running game, they did last week. Najee Harris and the Steelers ran the football really well against the Saints. I think they can be successful to shorten the game. The Bengals, obviously, even without Jamar Chase, they have a very good offense, still have a lot of weapons at receiver. But the Steelers' defense is pretty good. I think they can keep this game close at the very least, and at plus 5.5. I do like Pittsburgh. I'm not a Pickett guy. I watched him play last week. He's not, to me, an NFL quarterback right now, but he's mobile, and hopefully he can get some protection, and they can just establish a run game, do enough. Tomlin's really good when he's getting points at home. I like the Steelers plus 5.5. Last game, maybe the game, I don't know if it's the game of the week, but probably the Chargers and Chiefs will be the game of the week. But we're going to Minneapolis, Dallas at Minnesota. This line was really weird to me. Dallas is a 1.5 point favorite, and it's like, how is Dallas coming off a loss to Green Bay, now going on the road, a dog to an 8-1 Minnesota team that just won a game in Buffalo? So the line to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I thought Minnesota would probably be like a 2.5 point favorite. Maybe it's a trap line. They're trying to bait people into taking Minnesota. Or there's a lot of, I don't know. The line opened here. I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of Dallas money like every week. And there is a lot of Dallas money. I think there's some sharp money coming on the Cowboys as well. But this line was just fishy to me. So I'm hoping they're trying to bait people into taking the Vikings. This is a tough one. These two teams match up really well. They're very evenly matched. I'm going to Dallas minus 1.5. I think they have a slightly better defense. They have a good pass defense. They should match up well against the Vikings' deep receiving core. Get some pressure on Kirk Cousins. I think this is probably a buy low spot on the Cowboys. They should have won that game last week. They blew that 2-touchdown lead in Green Bay. And I think for the Vikings, you sell them at their high point here. Biggest win of the season by far for them. Went into Buffalo, got the win, albeit, got cuts and breaks there at the end of the game. But they're coming home probably feeling really good about themselves. Maybe a bit of a flat spot now against the Cowboys here. So for situationally, I think it's a better spot for Dallas at a fairly cheap price, although you can make the argument again that you're probably getting value of taking Minnesota as a home dog. But it's essentially a pick 'em game. I just think situationally it's probably a better spot for Dallas. These two teams match up really well. Maybe it's a game to stay away from. I like to gamble a little bit, man. Have some fun. I don't want to bet like I was looking at the Atlanta game, for instance, right? Taking Atlanta against Chicago. Atlanta's minus 2.5. But who the fuck wants to watch the Bears and the Falcons? I don't. I had to watch both those teams last week because I picked both those teams. And I don't want to watch those. So I'd rather, I wouldn't say I'd rather lose watching a good matchup. I just can't watch some shitty football. And I already got bad offense in Denver. I got a bad offense in Pittsburgh. I need a little bit of excitement. So I do like Dallas. Like I said, situationally, I think it's just a better play. Mike McCarthy just got to stay in Dallas. He's just a terrible coach, finds ways to mess things up. But I think the Cowboys defense is enough in this game. And offensively, hopefully they can get this thing rolling a little bit here. Run the football, get Dak out of the pocket and get the ball downfield. That's when they're at their best. So those are my 4 plays, guys. Taking Indy plus 7.5, taking the Broncos minus 1.5, the Steelers plus 5.5, and I'm gonna take the Cowboys at minus 1.5. Like, subscribe, comment on the video, guys. Again, sign up to Patreon. I put late picks there sometimes. I had the Bucks there last week, which I didn't talk about on last week's video. It's easy for me. Sometimes Saturday I see something I like, I'll just upload it, make a quick post, so you might get an extra bonus pick by signing up there. Good luck, guys. Week 11, let's keep her rolling.